right, good morning and welcome to the agenda on Dominion Brokers Group. My name is Chike Obogu, and today we'll be looking at a very wonderful topic. How do we transform conflicts into opportunities for growth and lasting peace? We shall take a trip to conflict resolution and peace building. But before then, let's talk politics. A roundup of the weekend stories. President Tinubu has initiated a grassroots development initiative following the National Economic Council's approval of the Renewed Hope Word program. A significant aspect of the program involves recognizing at least 1,000 economically active individuals in each ward. We'll talk about that. Who will receive support to enhance local manufacturing and business opportunities and operations? Well, last week, Thursday, President Tinubu presided over a National Economic Council session at the State House in Abuja. During the meeting, he received the backing of the governors of the Renewed Hope Word Development Program. This comprehensive initiative is designed to distribute recent macroeconomic benefits across Nigeria's 8,809 words. But before we go on, let me introduce my guest, John Izuchukwu, in the studio. John, good morning. It's good to have you again.
Chike, thank you for having me. I'm always elated to be here to talk Nigeria.
Yes. Well, looking at this issue of Renewed Hope Word program for about 1,000 economically active individuals in each ward in the country, and we have about 8,809 words, and you multiply that by 1,000, and then you want to find out how much that figure will be, and then you want to ask, who are the economically active individuals in a ward? Is this political? Is this more of a palliative measure? What do you think this whole word macroeconomic palliative is all about?
Yeah, thank you, Chike. I think that we need to applaud the president.
Okay.
It's a good initiative because you know that in a country like China, the macro business owners are the ones who are actually stimulating the economy, making things to run smoothly. So any country who is serious about dealing with, particularly the African, the global South African, for example, and we're really serious about dealing with poverty, we need to empower those who are the very base of our society. The only challenge that we have is that I hope that this will not be micromanaged to becoming a political party's initiative. If this is a national initiative, it will indeed begin to pull Nigerians out of poverty. And when you say, you're talking about those who are economically active, it's about those who have what they are doing, though small. You talk about the welders, for instance, the mechanic, for instance, the organizers, for instance, and a few other persons who are doing petty things, these little services here and there that also driving the economy. So if we're able to provide them the facility in terms of resources and equipment, they could add more into the economy. And of course, for instance, a welder can actually, if you get him a generator, for instance, and give him a little loan, it may shock you that welder can now begin to produce more, things that can bring him more money. Then he cannot get one or two apprentices. So those two are out of the jobless people. Monthly it gives them stipend. So what we're saying, it's a very good initiative. I must applaud the president. But the challenge is, if this will not be hijacked by the political merchants and then make it a party affair. If it's not a party affair, I think it's a program that we should all applaud and hope that it will transform our local economy.
Okay, you talked about hijacking now, but the question I want to come out with now is, it's a federal government initiative, and it's going to trickle down to the words. Now, who are those controlling the words? It's meant to be local. The federal government can't, from Abuja, see those who are economically active in these wards. So what's the role of the local actors, that's the local government chairman, in this whole arrangement?
Yes, you see, Chige, this is not a rocket science. I know we have an SME board as a country that can actually help in reaching out. They already have data of those who are economically active. They don't need to go look for them. All they need to do is to distribute across the worlds. Because I think this is not also going to be the last phase of this program. I think it's the first phase, more like a pilot phase to test and see how successful it will be, which will now determine if it will continue. So it is not a rocket science to actually track or get the data of those who are actually economically active. But the challenge all the time with our programs and our policies, our projects, is that we usually do not follow empirical data, empirical evidences in administering this or implementing these policies. If we're able to do that, I assure you, it will not be difficult to get to those who are, economically active. But the challenge is, if the political party will not hijack it and make it an APC affair, or a PDP affair, because in a PDP, governed state like Oyo State, if the slot is given here, hope it will not become a PDP affair. It will be that there will be some meritocracy on ground to determine who is qualified, who merits this. Because the goal is to stimulate the economy. The goal is to drive the economy. The goal is to pull Nigerians out of poverty, which is a major challenge at the moment. So I think that it's still, in all its sense, is laudable, but it's the implementation that we need to pay attention to see that the right persons get it, at the right time.
All right. For me, the program outlined at the National Economic Council meeting, spearheaded by the Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, aims to hasten local development by invigorating economic activities and also alleviating poverty and enhancing job opportunities and even food security within communities. It's a commendable step if we truly desire accelerated development. Initiatives like the Renewed Hope World Program are indispensable. Especially grassroots is where real transformation begins. But you see, implementation is everything. The federal government may spearhead it, but like I said, the local actors, that's the local government chairman, the councillors, must take ownership. Beneficiaries too must be selected on merit, not as political compensation. Let's empower real value creators who can multiply these investments within their communities. Again, if states adopt similar models, identifying local potential, scaling productive capacity, we may finally unlock inclusive and sustainable development across Nigeria. Let's move on. Also, over the weekend, the National Economic Council approved new funding for the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and pertinent ministries to improve Nigeria's flood preparedness and disaster response in anticipation of the 2025 rainy season. Well, it's here already. In a meeting led by Vice President Kashim Shettima at the Presidential Villa in Abuja, the Council called for immediate financial assistance to be provided to essential federal ministries and agencies, along with states and local management emergency services, just to prevent future occurrences of devastating floods. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, stated that the intervention will extend beyond federal agencies. It will also encompass assistance for all 36 states, the Federal Capital Territory, and the state emergency management services. So, John, before we go on that, quick one. The rains are here already. Sure. It's caused devastating effects, especially in the north central, in fact, in some parts of the southwest here. Now, I remember speaking with the assistant director NEMA, Southwest, and then he talked about some clog in the wheel, especially when it comes to funding, support by government, and even the nexus, the synergy between the state emergency management authority and even the local government's emergency management authority in Nigeria. You want to say a good step in the right direction?
Oh, certainly. All over the world, collaboration is everything. Synergy, partnership is everything. You don't achieve sustainable development without collaboration and synergy. So if we are serious about dealing with floods, because flooding has a negative impact on our economy, on food security, and so it is a welcome, step in the right direction. But again, the federal government need to take the lead, because, everything we created so that they can also have a way of responding, quickly.
Yeah.
And even though, in a small measure before the state steps in, and then when the state is overwhelmed, the federal government can step in. But when we leave everything to the federal government, it doesn't show seriousness.
So before response, there should be an advocacy, there should be an awareness, there should be sensitization, as it were. So the local government emergency agency should be the one, maybe, sensitizing the people, because they are the ones closest to the people.
You see, because in this part of the world, we actually don't value our lives so much. Because somebody knows that while you go and dump your dustbins, all the waste at the canal in your neighborhood, it will block the canal, and during rainy season, you will everywhere may be flooded. And somebody knows that will be the impact. But somehow we just feel that something will happen and we'll escape. So that's why we need huge advocacy. And I think that these environmental people that goes around should get their works very seriously.
Okay, so I'm going to get one of them. In fact, the coordinator in Oyo State to be on the program very soon. And then you get to listen to their story.
They need to get serious to their work.
Is there really manpower?
Well, Chike, it's true that
because you're looking at
I think that
sanitarians.
I think that they may be understaffed, but the ones who are there, advocacy is a lot. You can do advocacy using social media. A lot of people are on the social media. At least let it get to the consciousness of everybody that our environment, you see, we treat the environment like our baby. Because if you don't do so, you may just find out that everything you are building can be ruined in one day. So you take care of your environment very critically. And those who are championing environmental human rights activists, I think the time has come where we need to heighten our advocacy and not just sit back and just talk about the Ogoni cleanup and the rest of them. We need to now look at how do we get our local communities sensitized to know that an environment endangered is a life endangered. So if we take care of the environment, certainly we're better for it.
All right, for me, like I say, this is a great and bold approach to disaster management. All state governments should, in all ways, support this. Funding is good, but what about addressing environmental degradation and also poor urban planning that worsens flooding?
Chike, and I think that in all fairness to Wike, I think he's trying to see that Abuja follows the design in the books, because most of our states are not designed, or most of our urban communities today, everybody just come and build the way they like. We don't pay attention to the waterways. We don't pay attention to where you have the grid lines. We just wake up one morning and buy land, and people who are also willing to sell, they sell and you buy and you build your house. And so at the end of the day, all of these put together will constitute environmental hazard for us. So we need to come of age and see how we can begin to bring in some, metropolitan kind of approach in designing our cities, so that, you know, you can prevent some of these things, at least give you some preventive measures. And this goes to the government. You and I can't do that. When people wake up one morning and build where, you know, in an outlawed area, there should be government agency who should be able to say, no, this is not against you. It's the fact that this will endanger many other persons. I live in an area where a house is almost submerged now, because the house was built, you know, built in a very swampy area. And I don't think that the properties were done. And now the house is sinking down. You know, the owners have left the place. So you are saying that, how did you get the piece of land? This is just, you know, beside the canal. How did you get it? So all of this should be done. You see, our major challenge is that we don't really follow through our regulations. I believe that we have a lot of regulations, we have a lot of policies, we have a lot of state laws and all of that. But most of the time, we say that we are anti-party, we are following very poor sentimental, you know, components to determine how these regulations are implemented. And it's not good for a country like ours.
All right, let's move on. Nigeria's electoral umpire, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has reiterated to state electoral commissions that improving local elections require more than funding, stating that it demands proper planning, legal compliance, and clear processes. At a high-level meeting with the Forum of State Independent Electoral Commissions of Nigeria, INEC Chairman Professor Mohamud Yakub praised the new agency, or the new association, and even the leadership, but also cautioned against haphazard election planning. Let's get to listen to INEC Chairman there, Mohamud Yakub.
Beyond the three areas of technical assistance, capacity building, and knowledge or experience sharing, which you identified, I'm also glad to note that some of the chairmen of the state electoral commissions have served either as regular staff of INEC, some of them served as directors and administrative secretaries, or some of them actually served as resident electoral commissioners. Elder Anyedi Ikoiwak, the chairman of the Akwa Ibom, before he took a bow, was in River State. I can also see River State. I can also see Ahmed Kura Makama. Okay. Of political parties for local government elections. And no SIC, State Independent Electoral Commission, has ever been denied the voters register, the list of polling units, or the list of polling units, or the list of political parties for elections. We have always discharged parties for elections. We have always discharged this responsibility promptly, and we continue to do so. I'm glad that the chairman of state electoral commissions drew our attention to the provision of the law. I wish to draw your attention to the importance of adhering to the relevant provisions of the Electoral Act 2022.
Well, some excerpts from the meeting of the Forum of State Independent Electoral Commissions of Nigeria with the INEC chairman, that's Mohamud Yakub, professor there, well, basically reiterating to state electoral commissions that improving local elections require more than funding, and also stating that it demands proper planning, legal compliance, and clear processes. How has our electoral process been so far, especially from INEC? Would you do a comparative analysis from 1999 till date?
Oh, well,
briefly.
We'll just run through it. I think that Professor Maurice Iwu, you know, we take Professor Jega,
yeah,
and this Professor Yakubu. And when we look at the elections, Iwu was more like a Mafian.
Okay.
Mafian in the electoral process. And that was the days where the late Olusegun Agagu, you know, was defeated by Mimiko. At the time, about out of I think 16 local government, 14 had been declared, and Mimiko had won under Labour Party. And then Iwu took that result and ordered the resident electoral commissioner to come to Abuja. The election was declared in Abuja in favor of Agagu then. So, and we saw several malpractices under that administration. That was the days where you saw a deputy governor carrying ballot boxes, and he was running from place to place under under it was a huge season for malpractices, and all manner of electoral fraud took place. Fast forward to Jega, we saw that integrity was brought into the system, stability was brought into the system. Jega began to bring in professionalism and high level of ethics into how the electionary process in Nigeria is followed through. Several policies were changed under Jega, and ultimately we saw that Jega was a man who attempted to live above board. We saw how it was under him we saw the likes of opposition party winning elections in Nigeria. The likes of Edo State, the likes of Osun State, and several of them began to win elections against the ruling party then. And so, unfortunately, 2015, when the APC came in, Jega afterwards was relieved of his job, and we had this Professor Yakub Mahmoud, who had been berated by many Nigerians, and locally and internationally, even by civil societies, for having performed poorly in terms of the last election outing. He had, in a way, pedestaled impunity, and that anything goes in this electoral process. So many Nigerians have lost confidence in his leadership capacity, but we don't know why he's kept in office up to today, because I personally do not believe in his capacity anymore to deliver a credible, free and fair election, particularly in a season where democracy is at the precipice. And if nothing is done to restore public trust in the electoral process, we may be heading towards a chaotic season.
All right, well, we'll still talk more about our electoral process in coming days. However, the crux of today's matter, we explore pathways to a more peaceful world as we navigate through a series that will start today on conflict resolution and peace building. John, conflict resolution and peace building, they are two phenomena that are misconstrued in the African setting. As an expert, you're a conflict and resolution expert. Help us make some sense from both. Are they the same or do they differ? Conflict resolution, peace building.
Okay. First of all, conflict arises because interests, goals, and values are incompatible. We have incompatible interests. We have not found a place to meet, a middle ground to meet.
Okay.
So conflict will arise at that point. You are going to Mokola, I'm going to Bodija. And we can't meet, we can't have a place to meet. I say, okay, let's agree that you go halfway Mokola, I go halfway Bodija, and then we can, agree. If we do not agree, our interests will now begin to override, and then conflict will start. And if it's not properly managed, in fact, in the actual sense, we don't resolve conflict, we manage it.
Okay. Are you saying conflict can't be resolved? It can only be managed?
You can only manage it.
Okay.
Because in the real sense, you don't get to resolve conflict completely. Somehow, you just have to keep you know, you have to shift ground to keep going on.
Does it come with this concept of you can forgive, but you can't forget?
Well, you know, because we're human beings, you know, if we have challenges today, disagreement today, we can find a way to, you know, manage the challenges, the disagreement, and still forge ahead. Just like we can both agree on a subject matter and disagree on another subject matter. It doesn't mean we are enemies. It just means that on this subject matter, I'm not agreeing to your terms. But on this matter, at least we have some common grounds of agreement. And then matured minds understands that because we disagree on one matter or agree on another matter, we are not enemies. We are friends, we are colleagues, and we just have to keep moving on at this pace. And so, and you know that issue of conflict cascades down to every area of life, from family, among siblings, between husband and wife, colleagues at office, political arena, everywhere. You know, conflict is here and there. So, but it's how we're able to manage it that is the issue. And when you talk about peace building, it's that we have achieved certain level of peace. What do we need to continue to do for this peace to be sustained?
Okay, sustainability
of peace.
Okay,
do you understand?
Yeah. So what you're saying now is that resolution puts out the fire, and then peace building ensures it does not reignite.
Yes, we continue to manage, allow this peace, because in the real sense, without peace, you can't have development. So because we need development, very critical, and we need to ensure that this peace continues. And I'll give you a classical example.
Yeah.
You see that after the 1994 Rwanda genocide,
between the Hutus and the
Tutsis, when Paul Kagame came on board, the first thing he did was to redefine a philosophy that made the Tutsis subservient to the Hutus, that make them almost like, you know, they labeled them as cockroaches. Now,
because they were in the minority.
Do you understand? So he began to reshape the ideology. You don't see your brothers as cockroaches. Yeah. They have equal rights as human beings. Nothing makes you better than them. So peace building begins with psychological shift, ideological shift, a shift in perspective, because actually conflict begins from within. Do you understand? So he began to shift it. And so he now, if you have been to Rwanda, you see the museum that was built to tell the stories of the injustice, man humanity to man in their own land, and how that the West folded their hands and watched Africans burn. And what they could say was that it was an intra-ethnic conflict. So you see, policies like that began to come in, where we began to redefine how we perceive ourselves. That's a major, you see, because if we don't change how I see you, if I see you as enemy, I will always see you as enemy. Just like today, the average Igbo man believes that Chief Obafemi Awolowo betrayed Nnamdi Azikiwe. And because of that, the Igbo man feels that the average Yoruba man is a betrayer. He can't be trusted. It's a psychological issue that if we as a country are serious, and that's why sometimes I say, what is National Orientation Agency doing? These are things they should sponsor on media. A change in our paradigm, a change in the way we think. That look, our forefathers may have issues among themselves. We can carry it on to our generation. And so today there's such a concept as protracted conflict that have lasted for 400 years, 300 years, because we have not changed our perspective, our philosophy. We have carried the same narrative all along. So a conflict can last almost forever, because the people are thinking, you pass it on to your children pass it on to your grandchildren. Meanwhile, we can stop it and say no. People can have conflict, and because one individual behaves in a particular way, I will not generalize and say all of them from that section or from an ethnic group, that's the way they are. That's a poor perception of your neighbors.
Okay, well, you've talked about it, you've given an example of the Rwandan genocide. Okay, is it also peculiar to the Singaporean revolution of Lee Kuan Yew, where they had to come together, and the strategy Lee Kuan Yew used in making Singapore a force to be reckoned with, especially when it comes to the Asian tigers?
you see, that's a different.
That's what I'm saying.
A different.
Yeah, but the model, because we're going to delve into the core strategies used in conflict resolution. So the strategy Lee Kuan Yew used might just be an economic strategy for revolution.
Yeah, you see, at the center of all conflict is economic interest.
Yeah.
All the conflicts, whether it is communal, it is land, it is politics, is about what am I going to get to eat to take care of myself. So if you deal with that, Chike, look at the conflict happening. Look at how Jonathan dealt with the conflict in Niger Delta. At the center of that conflict is that the livelihood have been taken, which is exactly what Lee Kuan Yew did. If we are able to provide an economic base, Chike, 90% of the conflict in this part of the world will be managed. I see, you know, these are verifiable facts. The moment Jonathan says, okay, look, you guys, we have destroyed your waters, we have destroyed your farmlands, fishing is your major occupation, and agriculture, and due to oil spillage, we have damaged a lot of the portion of land that you use. So what we do is that, okay, we send some of you out of the country to go learn, you know, get into all manner of profession. We'll also be giving you stipends at the end of the month. We'll take care, we'll begin the Ogoni cleanup process will begin as earnest. Chike, when the people start getting back to their businesses, they get consumed in trying to get what to eat and drink. And nobody, you know, will be interested in fomenting trouble. But the moment you damage that means of livelihood, and I'm threatened, it is natural for me to want to protect my means of livelihood. Do you understand it now? So economic issues are the very, you know, center of all conflict. And if you deal with it, you can actually get people to rally around you to drive any policy or agenda you are bringing on board. An
idle mind is prone to conflict, right?
Certainly.
So a non-productive country, a consuming nation would always have conflict. Is that it?
You will breed conflict merchants. You will breed people who are readily available to be deployed, empowered, equipped, trained, and pushed into conflict. Because when you check all the conflict that's happening, not because the Nigeria today is like a theater, it's like a laboratory for learning conflict all over the world, Nigeria. Particularly when you're talking about political, religious, ethno-religious conflict and communal conflict. Nigeria is like a laboratory. We can have all sorts to, you know, look at and see the causes. And usually the causes are almost the same.
Unfortunately, the country is a lab rat.
But that's what it is, Chike. And at the center of it, in fact, when you talk about ethno-religious conflict today in Nigeria, it is the political influence that triggers it most of the time. And so you will see the area where you need ideological shift. Because somebody in a mosque or in a church is beginning to teach you over the years, you know, putting in certain thinking that can now make you go and be an extremist. So we need to sit down and evaluate what we put, because you know the way we are, Chike, human beings, whatever you hear consistently, begin to form your view, form your perspective. And some persons can die for what they believe. Because that's the height, height of loyalty to your belief system. That I'd rather die than let go this thing I believe in. And what that thing you believe was actually, you know, put in there several years of learning that makes you come to that point where you can say, I can die for what I believe. So if we really are serious about development, there's no way you create job. There's no way you create system that enables entrepreneurs to do well, that your conflict will be reduced. And that's what I think Peter Obi was campaigning. It was, you know, one of his mantra last election, that if we are able to take over the land in the north and then deploy agriculture, some of these boys who are used by the extremists, we will just find out that they are readily tools to work on the farm. When you go to Kenya today, the Kenyan tea, you know, it will shock you how much billion that is being made from that, you know, farm. And it's owned by Kenya, the Kenyan government. And then the young people are, you know, you go there and do 2 hours, 3 hours and make money for yourself and go take care of yourself.
Well, on a lighter note, there's been so much visions in Nigeria, Vision 2010, Vision 2020, Vision 2030, and it seems like these visions have no eyes to see, you know, and that's why we still have some pockets, large pockets of violence, of conflict arising within the country.
It's unfortunate. You see, leadership, Miles Monroe said, the greatest skill or ability of a leader is the ability to have vision. If a leader is visionless, it doesn't matter what you write on paper. People can write that for you. But it's not your vision. You can't run with it. You can't pay the price required to accomplish the vision. So when you see leaders who are visionless, or leaders who have distorted vision, or leaders whose vision is ethno-religious, or whose vision is party-related, they can't do much more than their vision. But we have yet to have a visionary leader who is thinking like a global leader, who is thinking transformatively, who wants to see people move away from poverty in his lifetime by his own policies. Do you understand? So vision is not just about people bringing intellectuals to write for you. It must be out of your heart so that you can actually see the price required to pay. Because how do you have a vision without paying a price? For instance, you want to be the best television station in 5 years. There are prices to pay because nobody gets to the climax, you know, strolling down the street. No country gets from third world to first world without paying a price, without paying a price of, first of all, of getting visionary leaders. When you get the visionary leaders, these leaders are people who are credible enough to sacrifice their own time and their ambition for national ambition. They want their names written in gold in the annals of history. But that's not the case we have today. Everything, see, Chike, if you don't have vision as a person, you can't go nowhere.
But you see,
every path leads to your to where you are going. Meanwhile, vision streamlines your path.
Yeah, but some of these leaders that we have, or majority of them, they have these qualities. They have this vision. They are transformative, but it might just be in a different angle. They have a vision for their pockets. Chike, they have a transformative agenda for their immediate families and their generation, even for their own personal self. So it's about self-aggrandizement, not for the people.
Yes, I agree with you. But you see, how do you describe a nation like America? And visionary leaders has been piloting the affairs of that nation.
But they have federating units as states.
No, you see, that's the point. If you have a vision as a president, for instance, my vision now is that over 73% of Nigerians who are, you know, in multi-dimensional poverty, that live less than $1 per day, I have a vision to bring them out of poverty. Part of this kind of program, the president, to be by your party. It not be about your have been done that never yielded any. You remember the NAPEP program.
And the structural adjustment program.
So we have done them, and they've not yielded the ultimate desired result. So how do we design this program to yield it? Now you will find out that the template for the Southeast will not be the template for the Southwest. In the Southwest here, people are more civil. People are more there. You have more intellectuals who can, people who you can reason out things. You go to the South, it's not so. People are more violent. So you look at what template is going to work in the South. What template is going to, you can use the traditional rulers in the North to get things done. You can't try that in the East. They won't listen to the traditional rulers. So you look at what template works in the different geopolitical zones, and then you deploy it. The goal is to, at the end of the day, see that we achieve the results.
Okay. Because of our time, John, let's look at some effective strategies to resolving disputes. We can look at it from the local angle or from the international angle. What are some of these strategies?
All right. You see, different conflicts require different strategies,
Approaches, yeah.
different approaches. There are several models, but let's look at the stakeholders' engagement.
Okay.
When you have conflict, there are several persons involved. That conflict was really active. The person who championed that conflict is a person I know one of the foremost professors of conflict. Conflict in Africa. He said by the time they got to the heart of that conflict management, there was somebody who was critical. And that person, unless he was involved, that conflict could not have been managed. They did everything until somebody had to tell them, all of us here, we are working for so and so person. If you don't get him on board, we can't get it done. So stakeholders engagement, elaborate, exhaustive, robust stakeholders engagement is the first pathway so that we can harness all the interest groups and see what their interests are. That's when you're not going to talk about how you negotiate. Because in negotiation, you have to trade off something to get something. You can't come with 100 needs and get all the needs met. So it means that a lot of groundwork must have been done. The national position, interest must have been put to all of us, and see that our ethnic interests we need to drop some things in order for us to have a cohesive, coherent national goal. So individuals now say that I have a price to pay if this is going to work. Because nobody comes to a peace deal and want to have 100%. You must be able to trade off something.
Okay.
But before that time, the critical persons who are needed must be on board.
So where's the place for restorative justice? And how do you apply that?
Okay. Remember that let's not use the case of Nigeria. So it's just
Okay.
Let's look at the case of Liberia, for instance.
Okay.
After the entire, conflict that
The
resulted
Charles Taylor,
Samedo issues
yes,
and all of that, and then restorative justice talks about who have been unjustly dealt with are compensated.
Okay.
So, in the government of Liberia, because I was part of a research in Liberia, and what the government had to do with the help of UN and some other agencies is to begin to fight for vulnerable people whose properties were taken, lands were taken during this war, and then see that those guys received their land back. So you look at the case of Nigeria now. After the Nigerian Civil War, the 3R up, you remember? The 3R, that the reconstruction, restoration, and the other R now.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the Gowon government did not implement it. So the Southeast evolved on its own. That pain is still there. It's the reason why the Southeast will never trust this country. So restorative justice is that let us see how we can. We may not be able to attend to all that was damaged. But what can we do?
You first accept that there is a problem.
To make sure that these people know that we have been accepted to be one. How do we tone down the marginalization cry? By dealing with some issues that will make them know that we have been accepted to be one Nigeria. But that was not done. And so today, he feels that he is being coerced to be part of this entity because his conflict prolonged. As long as you are denying people justice, you are actually prolonging your conflict.
Justice denied
is
conflict
prolonged.
prolonged.
You see protracted conflict.
You've dealt with the issue of mistrust already, which comes under restorative justice there. Well, it's been an interesting session here. Well, I would have loved us to go on and on and on, but for our time. But let's make this actionable. What can we as a people do to support conflict resolution and peace building? The only solution and peace building. The only thing we can do is to come together, trust each other, and enlighten ourselves. And make sure that we build a structure as a country for people to thrive and grow together here. Well, thank you, John, for featuring on the agenda this morning.
Okay, it's my pleasure.
But before I go, let's take one step towards peace today. Whether it's learning a skill or supporting a peace-building organization, please share this episode with someone who would find it inspiring. Let's keep this conversation going. Do follow us on all our social media platforms, on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. The handle is Dominion Broadcast. On the app X, it is @DominionCast. You can visit our website at www.dominion.org.ng. Remember, this is a series. I'll continue with the series tomorrow with John Izuchukwu. My name is Chike Ubogu. Have a very wonderful day. Stay positive.